The ongoing, rapid dismantling and restructuring of major U.S. federal institutions is not merely a collection of unrelated policy changes or partisan disagreements. Instead, it closely parallels a known pattern from economic crime known as a bust-out, a deliberate extraction and collapse of value from a business. Typically, a bust-out involves controlling a legitimate entity, hollowing it out through debt and asset stripping, redirecting its resources for private gain, and then allowing its collapse while leaving creditors and stakeholders holding the losses. Applying this analytical lens at a national scale, we look beyond surface policy disputes to discern the underlying strategic intent. We evaluate recent administrative actions in terms of their potential to systematically weaken public institutions, facilitate privatization, redirect public wealth into private hands, and eventually destabilize national governance structures. We provide here an organized analysis aligned with this nation-state bust-out model. We outline known facts, clearly identify how these actions correlate to the stages of such a scheme, and highlight vulnerabilities, specific red flags, for media, public investigators, and concerned citizens to remain alert to. Stage 1. Control the leadership and weaken oversight. In any bust-out scenario, control is the prerequisite. The dismissal of 17 inspectors general, combined with the rapid removal of senior military judge advocate generals, directly mirrors the early step of seizing managerial control to eliminate internal resistance. Inspectors general function precisely as internal alarm systems. They are independent watchdogs who guard against fraud, waste, and corruption. Their removal effectively disables governmental self-defense mechanisms, making agencies vulnerable to manipulation from above. This strategic action, rapid, broad, and unprecedented, signals a deliberate intent to diminish internal oversight. Red flags here include sudden dismissals without due cause, replacements drawn from overtly political rather than career officials, and rhetoric demonizing traditional oversight bodies. Investigators should be particularly alert to policy decisions, appointments, and firings concentrated around roles responsible for accountability, transparency, and internal ethics. Stage 2. Starve the state and redirect public resources. Reducing taxes significantly, while simultaneously imposing substantial funding cuts across critical federal agencies, directly aligns with the bust-out methodology of leveraging an entity to its breaking point. Agencies vital to public welfare and stability, such as the CDC, NIH, Social Security Administration, and NSF, are losing crucial financial resources and personnel. Concurrently, funding is redirected toward politically loyal or private entities, such as the Department of Government Efficiency under Elon Musk, and favored private contractors positioned to replace public functions. The intent here is not merely fiscal conservatism, it creates conditions in which public systems inevitably fail, justifying further privatization. Red flags include aggressive tax reductions combined with sudden, severe budget cuts to vital public services, strategic budget increases for privatized functions, and the appearance of favored private actors rapidly filling the voids left by these cuts. Investigators and media should probe particularly for undisclosed financial interests, hidden contracts, and privatization deals made hastily and with limited oversight or competition. Stage 3. Loot public assets and prepare for privatization. The liquidation or privatization of publicly owned assets. Over 400 federal properties identified for sale, including critical offices used by IRS and Department of Labor, illustrates the hallmark bust-out stage of asset stripping. Simultaneously, entire federal programs like USAID, IMLS, and NSF grants are abruptly defunded, their resources becoming opportunities for privately operated alternatives or simply vanishing into private profit centers. This is extraction, clear and simple. Public assets developed and maintained at taxpayer expense are transferred into private hands, often at undervalued rates. Red flags include rapid, non-competitive asset sales involvement of politically connected buyers, loss of public transparency on property disposition, and sudden shifts from publicly managed to private or semi-private operation. Investigative scrutiny should concentrate on tracing ownership, verifying fair market valuation, and uncovering hidden beneficiaries and conflicts of interest. Stage 4. Undermine core functions and accelerate systemic instability. The widespread, simultaneous weakening of crucial government functions, Social Security Administration job cuts risking benefit disruptions, IRS staffing reductions hampering tax enforcement, CDC data cuts undermining public health surveillance, reflects the bust-out tactic of intentionally weakening core operational capacity. Intelligence agencies, including the FBI and CIA, traditionally insulated from rapid structural shifts, now also face budget constraints, indicating that systemic destabilization may extend even to national security apparatus. The deliberate speed and scale of these cuts suggest intent beyond mere efficiency. These actions appear aimed at eroding trust in the state's capacity to deliver critical public goods and services. Red flags to watch include widespread operational failures, chronic understaffing leading to visible public service breakdowns, intentional degradation of publicly accessible information, and a sudden reliance on private, often politically connected firms to fill service gaps. Stage 5. Escalate crisis conditions and exploit or conceal collapse. Recent dismissals of senior military leadership and high-ranking JAG officers represent a disturbing elevation toward crisis-oriented governance. In classic bust-out schemes, deliberate chaos often masks final extraction and prevents clear accountability. A weakened, politicized military leadership is inherently vulnerable to misdirection and misuse, particularly in times of real or manufactured emergencies. Intent here manifests through increased political control over the security apparatus, potentially paving the way for declarations of extraordinary powers or national emergencies. Red flags include aggressive rhetoric around perceived internal threats, politicized military appointments, broad invocation of emergency powers without transparent justification, and the targeting of media or institutions that might independently report crises objectively. Viewing recent administrative actions through the nation-state bust-out model dramatically clarifies the stakes and potential intent underlying seemingly isolated government cutbacks and purges. The actions taken thus far, mass firings of oversight figures, deep cuts to public institutions, widespread asset sales, destabilization of core federal services, and unsettling shifts in military leadership, map disturbingly well onto the known pattern of a structured asset extraction scheme. Critical investigative vigilance is now essential. Media, policymakers, public investigators, and ordinary citizens must watch closely for the identified red flags, question sudden and non-transparent actions, and demand accountability. The purpose of this analysis is not only to raise the alarm about existing conditions, but to equip stakeholders to proactively detect, document, and respond to the unfolding risks clearly and decisively before they become irreparable. It's our country. Don't let it be stolen.